Gen Z wants a cheat sheet to personal style. They want individuality that can be easily packaged up or instantly gained, and they want it as cheap as possible. They want to look like they have personality through their clothing, but they want to be able to shop that in a quick edit from H&M or Zara or someone online. I'm going to go into why I think this is the case first, but also I want to move this video on into practical tips about how you can start building your personal style, even if you don't know exactly where to begin. That's going to be the part 2 of this video. Stick around for it and let's get going. First off, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. If you're new here, my name's Katie. I talk about sustainable fashion, news, headlines, personal style, and how all of that can relate to a better fashion industry. So if that sounds interesting to you, then hit the subscribe button, like this video, and let's get into it. I started off with a pretty bold statement, which is that Gen Z wants a cheat sheet to personal style. Given that our current fashion industry relies on people on TikTok, on social media, seeing a trend go viral and being told via advertisements or influencers that they can buy into it with just a few items purchased, you can see how personal style could easily fall into this trapping and how we're so conditioned to believe that it can be purchased. The thing about personal style is that it's a representation of your personality and your history and how you want to express yourself through clothing. You can't buy a personality in the same way that you can buy into the office siren trend, for example. And I've spoken on this channel before about how it seems personal style is becoming more and more of a talking point online, and more people are interested in creating their personal style. And I think a natural consequence of this is a lot of personal style content that I've seen centers around people trying to sell personal style rather than actually having one and showing that. And obviously, given that for the last few years, we've been treating trends like something very easy to buy into, and people are taking this very materialistic, this very disingenuous approach to personal style, which is now trending. And instead of saying, get these 5 must-have items to become a clean girl, it's do these 5 things to make it look like your clothes are lived in. Let me give you some examples so it's not just me badly explaining what I'm trying to say. One trend I've noticed that really fits this bill is the flat lay airport trays. Something about these visuals really itches my brain. I think they're really fun, really artistic, and I can see that it's a very aesthetic way of showing someone your personality, trying to make it seem like you radiate the aura given by these very aesthetic, very idealized airport tray concepts. Like it's everything someone needs to know about you in one box. I don't know who started this trend, but it's very quickly risen in popularity. A lot of people have been mimicking it. And like I said, from a fashion point of view, I can see why it's become so popular. It's so fun, and a lot of people are really paying attention to how things are laid out and playing with color and playing with styles and what these things might say about yourself. But it feels like people are seeing it as less of an art form and instead making it into shoppable content. And I think a large part of this is the fact that brands have really quickly jumped on the trend because it is a really good way of selling items. They can put everything you need for a certain core or a certain holiday destination, say, in one box and just be like, okay, well, buy the box and then you are that thing, or you have all the things you need for this event. And I didn't realize this, but people are actually doing this in real life too. It's not just like people buying these trays online from Amazon, which is what I thought was happening. People are going to the TSA line and taking their flat lays before or after security. All I kind of want to say to that is, do we know how dirty these trays are? Like, I feel like there's stats online that show that they're dirtier than a toilet seat or something. Like, I don't want my stuff in there for any longer than it has to be. I mean, then again, buying an airport tray just so you can do this in the comfort of your bedroom is also consumerism. Like, it also feels kind of pointless. I know one creator online said that she uses it to store her cleaning things when she's not making this kind of content. And, you know, fair enough, it's another kind of container. I don't like the fact that it has like an entry point that means you have to buy plastic. But yeah, I feel like this is better than holding up the security line at an airport. But back to what the content is trying to say itself. It's just a very idealized way of looking at what makes you you. What books fit with my personality, what shoes, what lip gloss and accessories, and all these like little things that you don't need, but maybe say something about you. But so often the comments of these TikToks just descend into, oh, where can I get this item? And do you have an Amazon shopping link for this? And like, it's just like consumerism final boss all the time. Another example is loot drops. It's the concept of like, if you're in a video game and you were unalive, this is what your character would drop. And again, it just feels like a commercialization of your personality because it's so unrealistic, right? It's like no one is carrying around all of these things in their pockets on a normal day. You're not dropping like 5 books and a pair of shoes and, you know, 3 different scrunchies and like perfume and sunglasses and all of these things. Like this isn't what someone's carrying on the daily. It's what they feel expresses their personality. But again, all of the TikTok comments just derive down into where can I find this item online? Or this is the vibe I'm trying to give off. And again, it just feels like a commercialization of something that really is so unique. I mean, trying to shop someone else's personality just seems weird. And also you get a lot of comments saying like, this is so real, or like, this is the realest one I've seen, if someone includes something that's like slightly non-aesthetic, like an opened package of mints or something. And it's like, this is not real. This is very, very manufactured. It's this kind of like faking having a personality again, or making your personality so aesthetic in a way. The biggest example I wanted to point out, one that kind of made me want to make this video, is people manufacturing the general wear and tear of clothing. I think mostly inspired by Jane Birkin and Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. There's this general like sentiment of making your clothes and making your bags in particular look lived in, that is like being labeled as like chic and very messy girl aesthetic. But rather than people actually wearing their clothes to the point where they look lived in, or actually wearing their bags to the point where they have genuine wear and tear, they're buying these things straight from the store, unboxing them, and then like putting them through stress tests to give them that look of wear without actually having to go through, you know, the meddlesome part of using something for years. Like I saw someone dumping a whole bottle of wine over their like luxury handbag. I don't know if it was a dupe or not, I'm not sure. Is this the lengths you're gonna go to just so you don't have to keep an item in your wardrobe forever and get to this natural state of degradation? It just doesn't make sense. But also I've seen people manufacturing this kind of like kitschy vibe from adding like charms and bracelets to your clothing. And I even saw one TikTok that said like, if you want to get the lived in feel to your clothing without dumping a bottle of wine over them, just have like headphones hanging out your bag. And it's just this very like, we have to be purposefully non-aesthetic in order to give off the aesthetic that we want to give off. It's just very disingenuous again, and I feel like that's going to be the whole video. I just briefly mentioned it, but the messy girl aesthetic is definitely like a subculture on TikTok that I'm seeing more and more, and I think probably it derives from brat girl trending, you know, not caring about having the perfect wardrobe and not caring about quiet luxury and clean girl and whatever else was trending, being like the antithesis to that, but again in a very like manufactured way. It's like people are jumping on this trend that tries to convince others that you don't care about how you look and you don't care about giving off an unpolished look, but doing that in a very considered, very staged way. It's like having headphones hanging out your bag is how to be a messy girl, and it's just like, okay, but if you've spent 5 minutes trying to artfully style your headphones coming out your bag so they look just right, then what are you doing? Just going back to the mention of Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, they've obviously been beloved fashion icons for ages now. TikTok recently has been idealizing them as kind of a meeting of 2 very popular trends over the past year, which is like quiet luxury in one hand and brat girl in the other, since, you know, they run their own luxury clothing line and all of their clothing is so well made, but it also looks very lived in. Like they're very well known for their handbags being really beat up and looking like they were dragged down the street by a car. But the reason that Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's bags look like that is because they are constantly wearing them. Like, you can go back through paparazzi videos from the years and see those bags cropping up time and time again. They're not manufacturing this wear and tear, and to be jumping on a trend that idealizes them as, you know, the fashion icons you want to look up to, but manufacturing that style by dropping your bag and slapping it with slippers and however else people are like making it look distressed, just is so chronically online that it feels ridiculous. And I'm not hating on any particular creator here, but the general trend of doing this just is too online for me. And the thing is, this discourse has been going on for a little while, and it feels like people are repeatedly ignoring the sentiments behind these popular viral moments. Like, someone went viral for having tabis that were really beat up and kind of messy, and the creator was like, my tabis look like this because I wear them. And she tried to create a conversation around mending and repairing your clothes and making sure that you're wearing them over and over again, so they have the like distressed lived in look that people want to cultivate, because they are actually distressed and lived in. But people didn't really seem to like that part of the conversation. I mean, we're still seeing videos of people telling you how to achieve this look without actually wearing your clothes. It just seems like there was a missed opportunity of centering the conversation around how clothing on social media is always so new and so fresh out the box. And we could have taken this trend of having clothes that look lived in and made it normalize having normal clothes on social media, but instead it's turned into another form of content, another form of shopping a personality that then might be dumped after 5 minutes. Overall, it's this idea of manufacturing a personality and the effect it has on people who consume this kind of content on social media, because it can make us feel quite inadequate. A lot of this content emulates real life, it emulates being authentic, but it's highly aesthetic, it's highly cultivated. It can make you compare this version of someone's personality to your personality, which maybe isn't as romanticized and aesthetic. Like, maybe, yeah, you could fit some of the things that speak to your personality in a security bin from Amazon, but it wouldn't be as effortlessly pretty, which, spoiler alert, like, no one's normal life looks like this. This is, again, highly cultivated. And obviously there's the argument that this is all art, this is all content, and we shouldn't be viewing this as real life. But I think because the content is emulating real life, we can so easily forget that. And one thing that comes to mind for this was the escalator trend. People doing outfit checks basically, but by going up and down an escalator, and it looks like they were just caught unawares in the middle of their everyday life, and they always look like this, and their outfit is always this put together. And again, we know it's content, but it can be damaging to think that this is somebody's everyday and compare it to yourself and feel like they're better. Same thing with that content of people just crossing the street and showing off their outfit that way. It's highly aesthetic content made to look like real life, whilst not acknowledging that this isn't anybody's real life. And I'm not saying that any of these individual trends are bad and that people can't have fun and, you know, we should ban them, because that's not plausible, for one thing. But also, it's not the individual trend, it's the overriding trend towards cultivating everything in our lives and making everything for content. Even the underconsumption core trend that I did a video on, it was cultivating your sustainability in a very aesthetic, packaged way. And that made it feel really disingenuous to some people. For personal style in particular, it's very dangerous to make it seem so easy to achieve. It's not easy to cultivate your personal style. It is the work of many years. It's about listening to yourself and understanding what you like. We can't treat it like every other trend on the internet where you only need to buy a certain few items and style them in a particular way in order to fit that aesthetic. But Gen Z doesn't want to hear this. In an age of instant gratification, fast fashion, the death of attention spans, we're losing our capacity to wait for results. It has to be now or never for a lot of people. Otherwise, they'll get bored and they'll move on to something else. And you can see why when you think about how apps are literally engineered to do this. But I've done a whole range of videos talking about why personal style is so important. So I'm not going to rehash that, but we should get into part 2 of this video, which is how to start cultivating your personal style when you have no idea where to start. There was a comment on one of my videos that I feel like is very relevant to a lot of people who maybe used to depend on fast fashion and trend cycles for their clothing and now want to move to personal style but don't know where to start. They basically said that they wanted to get rid of their entire wardrobe and they knew this wasn't sustainable or realistic, so they didn't know how to begin that process of going from only liking a couple of things in their wardrobe to building a whole closet full of clothes they love. So I'm going to take this problem and give you a couple of tips if you're in the same scenario. Firstly, you've got to analyze why you still love those few items in your wardrobe. For this person, it was a pair of jeans and a couple of sweaters. Is it the colors that you still like? Is it the fit? Is it the textures? Is it the aesthetic they give off that maybe emulates what you want to go for in the future? I've said before in my personal style videos that information is your friend. You need to know why you like or don't like something, and you need to know how to analyze something beyond I like it or I don't like it, which is hard. We're not saying that this process isn't going to be hard, but it's worth the time. A couple of other practical tips I could give is you can go to Pinterest and go through your Pinterest boards, go through your Pinterest feed and really study what it is that keeps drawing you in. Like say you've saved like 10 pins on your Pinterest board and 5 of them have a white pair of jeans. Maybe that means that you're subconsciously drawn to a white pair of jeans and you think you might need that in your wardrobe. And then obviously you can go on to analyze what you're looking for in those white jeans. And you can go see the whole video I've done about that. But if you want to do something in real life, which I cannot stress enough how important it is to physically go into stores if you're able to, because this is a real cheat sheet. Like if you're looking for a cheat sheet on how to know what fashion you like, going into stores and trying on as much variety as possible is a great way to quickly understand what you like and what you don't like, with the caveat of you need to be properly analyzing. Going into a Zara, for example, is a great way of doing this because they carry so much range. And of course, maybe you're going to be limited by the seasons and other things like sizing they have in store, but it's probably a better idea to go into a store like this versus a charity store, since they probably will have bigger sizes and bigger ranges and more accessibility and more changing rooms. So that's why I'm recommending, a fast fashion store rather than a charity store. But also going into a higher quality end store so you can compare the differences between that fast fashion and, somewhere even like Arket, which is still owned by a fast fashion store but is better known for their quality or their cuts or their better materials, can show you really quickly the difference in what you're looking for and the range of options. You need to pay attention to things like colors, fits, styles, materials, necklines, hem lengths, basically everything that is happening in a garment that you like or you don't like. And you need to write it all down in your notes app on your phone. Don't think you'll remember it, because you won't. It needs to be physically written down if it's going to help you later on. I know some people swear by getting a color analysis and using that as a way of knowing what flatters your body. I've never done one of these and I've seen some pros and some cons online, so I'm not 100% sure. I'd love to know if you've done one and whether it worked for you, but I'm not going to include it in my list of tips because I don't have any personal experience with that. If you have any sort of tips for how you can start cultivating your personal style, then definitely drop them down below. But I think just the general tip is paying attention to what you like and analyzing it. Yes, this is going to be research. Yes, it's going to take time, and yes, it's going to be laborious, but it is so worth it. If you, for example, think about your favorite style influencers, think about how many of them have been creating fashion content for years and years. And how often do they still discover new things that they like, or, have things in their wardrobe that they get re-obsessed with because they rediscovered it or styled it in a new way. This is about being on a journey, not getting to a destination. And I think maybe that's something that Gen Z is going to struggle with. But hopefully it's something we can get over, especially since, like I said in my influencer video, people are turning away from this kind of newness, constant advertisement kind of content, and trying to find something more meaningful, something deeper, something maybe offline. I'd love to know your thoughts on this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. YouTube thinks you're gonna like this video on screen now, so feel free to watch that, and I'll speak to you really soon. Have a lovely week. Bye.